A very good afternoon to you all. Hope you are doing well. In this video, what I'm going to touch on is KPIs. Now, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicators, and they're usually used by companies, let's be honest, to manage their sales team and get the best out of them and push them and use them to sort of use it. It's used as a stick to beat consultants over the head with. So I use key performance indicators in a good way. Now, when I started off in recruitment, I thought these are ridiculous. They don't work because it was all just based on how many calls you make, and then it should equal this amount. And sometimes I would see that some people would make all the calls, let's say 100 a day, and they would get no results. And then some people would make 30 and get even better results. However, I actually worked at a company where I was praised for getting the clients. However, I made less calls, but somebody else was praised even more for making more calls than me. But actually, they were faking their calls. So they had more praise than me, even though I had the desired results. So if you're setting yourself KPIs, you must do this. You must set yourself key KPIs. So I'm going to give you 5 KPIs that I use. They're very simple, and you will develop it. And the premise of it is data is key. Data will tell you everything from the market, from how much you're going to make next month. It will allow you to home in on the areas that, okay, great, I've done this and I've got that result. That's all the KPIs do. So for a fact, if you do double that, chances are you're going to get, it's always not that simple, but chances are you're going to get double the result as well. So we'll start off with number 1. Now, number 1, what I track is outreach. Now, you don't systematically have to track this, but you want to have a soft target. And outreach, I mean, it's either clients or candidates. Yeah. If we focus more so on candidates, I have a metric of about 60 a week of new contacts I want to make. So I set myself, roughly, what's that, 15, 30, 13 a day. And you want to just make those connections. So I make them usually early in the morning or late at night. These are typically out through LinkedIn. So I connect with those people. And what happens is I send them a message. These are usually sought after candidates that I could easily find a job for, either with companies I'm working with at the moment or companies I want to work with later on. So let's say a software engineer in London. I would outreach to a bunch of them. And if any of them come back and say, yeah, they would like to have a discussion, I would take it from there. You have to have that funnel built up. And it is free to do. It's quick, easy. LinkedIn takes you 10 minutes. You can just do a search on that and connect with those people. If you keep that up enough times, don't sit. I used to have a silly pie in the sky target, but you lose your train of thought. It gets very messy. So you want to keep in touch with a lot of people in the industry that you're working in, whether or not you actually have a client for them, just to see what they're saying. Are they likely to engage with you? It'll give you some good data back from the market as well. It always leads somewhere. Somebody will say, no, I'm not interested, or they'll just not reply, or they'll tell you, look, I'm getting promoted in my business. So therefore you might get a lead from the client, and they might say, look, would you need any help recruiting for that position? Could you introduce me to your manager, your HR, whoever? It will lead somewhere. You get nothing back from it as well. So what you want to establish, I've got a 65 outreach KPI on that, and around 60, 65. Depending on how busy I am. Now, you want to either be a scattergun person or you want to be a sniper. Yeah, I've done the scattergun approach. I would say, in all honesty, I'm more of the scattergun approach. So I just, connect with loads of people. You can do the sniper approach where you don't have to connect with that many people. You can just connect with 5, but really tailor make the message to them and build a long sales funnel with them, and really get to know them and establish your sort of rapport with them, and hopefully set up a meeting with these candidates or clients, however you want to take it. And that's totally up to you. Most people would probably prefer the sniper approach. So you can stick to 5 outreaches on that. So point number 2 is, of course, you're going to track how many people actually convert on this. So if you've connected with 60 per week, you want to see how many per month actually turn into phone calls. How many of them actually engaged? Are you engaging with the wrong market? That's a key metric, because that's building up your pipeline in your sales funnel. And you'll have I've got a little folder where I've got those most placeable candidates, and I have their CVs or I have their details. So if anything crops up, in that local area, I know for a fact either I can go to my CRM, my folder, but I've got it on as well as a spreadsheet, and I've got the list of the names that people I've spoke to separate from the business. So it's more of a headhunting approach, and I literally go to them and I say, hey, I'm working with a candidate in this area. Would you be interested in interviewing them? And I do that, and I name the companies there on my sort of funnel. It's probably netted me quite a few clients on that, and it goes to interview after that. So point number 3 is quite obvious as well. It's revenue. You want to track your revenue month to month. You don't necessarily want to do it weekly. You can do, I just do monthly as well. And I've tracked, I can tell you off the top of my head how much I've gone. So that's the most important. That just goes without saying. There's not too much on that in terms of a KPI, but it is important. And last month's revenue will not be a reflection of this month. So you got to bear that in mind and just do some financial modeling, and projections are from that. Point number 4. Point number 4 is on the sales side. So you want to track your conversion of clients. Conversion of clients will be looking at how many emails you sent, how many calls you made, or how many LinkedIn messages you've sent. And it is pretty much the same story for the outreach. Now, it's harder to track because there's been times where I've sent 100 emails and got 6 clients, but there's been times I've sent 300 emails and got no clients. Yeah. So it is, how I track it is month by month. So I look at, I've got a program that does it all for me. You want to have how many emails did you send periodically, how many clients actually fell into your funnel, whether or not you closed them or not. That's a good indication of next year. January time was very good. I had 12 clients. It was my best month, for example. And what you want to do with that is you want to come back and say, okay, next year I'm going to double down what I done. Yeah. And these 2 sectors really performed really well. So it's just data around that. You can use it month to month or year to year as well. So number 5 is CV to interview and interview to placement. Now, as you get more experienced and as you know your client better and you start to work with them, what tends to happen is you get a better ratio. So if you start off by sending 5 CVs for one job, what typically happens is you should be bringing that down to actually sending 3 CVs or even 1 CV for each job. So you just send a CV, they go to interview, and literally you build it up. So the hardest part is actually when you start working with a client. And if you send a CV, you might have not have had a great discussion with them. You might have just got them to sign terms, and you've sent them a CV and they don't come back, or they say, not suitable. Or you get a little bit of information that they say, oh, look, they need experience in this, or we're looking for someone with this qualification. And you sort to unravel it. Obviously, when a candidate goes to interview, you ask them, how did it go? And they say, look, I think it went really well. What questions did they ask? So you can prep the next candidate with the same questions they ask. And you can get to know the client, build that relationship as you go along in terms of building rapport and servicing them, their account better. After that, you can increase your interview to placement. So you increase your CV to interview. So you just want to track that. I've got a CRM where I put everything through. So it just gives me a report at the end of the month. I sent 57 CVs and I got 12 interviews. And you can just track, just for example, and you can just track everything from there. Who is your best performing client? Where are you bringing most of your revenue from? Is 20% of your revenue coming from one client? Is 80% coming from one client? Where should you sort of target yourself? This is how I use KPIs and metrics to sort of better my agency and just work out how on earth. And even if you're just working with it for a company, or you're a freelance recruiter, you can definitely use KPIs and set yourself your own KPIs. Like, I'm very big on numbers and data, but most people might just think, okay, I just want one KPI. How many CVs do I send? That's it. That's all you care about. Yeah. You don't, whatever happens with the clients, that's fine. CV sends usually equal interviews, usually equal placements. So it's just up in those numbers, finding out how you can obviously work out. And the key thing with KPIs is you must work out what works and what doesn't. That's it. Literally, once you find out what works and what doesn't, you're in. And if you work out that it does or doesn't work, then you can stop wasting your time in that sense. So I hope this video helps. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I hope to hear from you guys soon.